You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios, this is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Friday. That means we're brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. It also means I have the pleasure and misfortune of staring at these panels with delicious jumbo Gulf shrimp and fried catfish and crispy shoestring fries and honey butter biscuits, and I can't eat any of it for 2 hours, but you can get on by Corks today for lunch or for dinner. They bring you our Friday shows each and every week. We got a ton to get to. Mario Jerez and Casey Gaines back on the ones and twos. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com with us in 15 minutes. Get you ready for Week 18 in the NFL coming up later in hour number 1. Billy Embody is going to join us at the top of hour 2. Don't miss that. Billy has been at All-American game practices where LSU commits have been performing. LSU has picked up the number 1 running back in the country. Bryce Underwood, the number 1 quarterback in the country, is going to announce this weekend. Billy will get us updated on that. Transfer portal comings and going. So you won't want to miss Billy Embody at 2 o'clock. He's, of course, with the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 network. We'll talk Saints and Falcons as the Black and Gold try to eke their way into the playoffs this weekend with a win and a little bit of help. Travis Brown from the Bryan College Station Eagle with us at 2:30. LSU does have a basketball game tomorrow. They'll open SEC play with the Aggies, so we'll do that in hour number 2. We'll start with LSU football as we generally do, some comings and goings in the transfer portal. The first I want to talk about is one of the goings. That is Logan Diggs, and it surprised me a little bit to see Logan Diggs' name pop up into the transfer portal. I realize that you're running out of time to do that, and you can declare for the NFL draft whenever you want, so this is maybe the first step in that process. The second piece of this is he left the bowl game on New Year's Day with an injury, and it needed a brace immediately, and he was kind of assisted off the field and down into the tunnel, so I don't know what Logan Diggs' health status is. He has been in college a long time. He has graduated from Notre Dame. He has played a year for the flagship school in his home state, being a New Orleans native, and he's kind of accomplished a lot at the college level in terms of being a starting running back, playing at Notre Dame, graduating, playing for LSU. I'm curious that he would think he would need to go somewhere else to play. He had a good year this year. If you go by yards per game, he was 11th in the Southeastern Conference, only played in 10 games, had some injury issues, wasn't around for the Florida State game, but he had a groove there at the end of September where against Arkansas, he ran it 14 times for 97 yards. That's 7 yards a carry. Against Ole Miss, he was fantastic, 19 carries for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. They really featured him in the Missouri game. I think LSU, at that point, we didn't quite know what Jaden was, and you wanted to keep Missouri and Luther Burden off the field against the LSU defense, and LSU really ran the ball a lot against Missouri. Logan Diggs carried the ball 24 times that day for 134 yards. That's right at almost 6 yards a carry. He had a touchdown in that game. He ran it for 97 against Auburn. I mean, he emerged in a very, very, very crowded running back room as the most productive LSU running back through the middle of the season. And so, yes, I would welcome Logan Diggs back with open arms. He is a very, very, very solid SEC back. I have lamented the talent level in LSU's running back room the last 3 years or so. Diggs was the best LSU had this year, and absolutely I would welcome him back. That said, if he feels like he would like to continue his college career somewhere as a graduate or would like to start his professional career, from an LSU perspective, I look at that group, and I know that Caleb Jackson and Trey Holly are coming back, and I know that Caden Durham is coming in. And I think all 3 of those guys have a real chance to be really, really good players. We talked earlier this week about how tough it is to ask freshman defensive linemen to come in and help. We even talked about how it's tough for Brian Brzee as a New Orleans Saint rookie to come in and play on the defensive line as a first-year player. That's just really hard to do. It's always hard to play as a first-year player, but some positions may be a little easier than others. And if Caden Durham is your third team back next year as a freshman with all the talent he has, that's fine. And more importantly, if LSU breaks the huddle the first time in Las Vegas and Caleb Jackson's back there, next to your starting quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, like, I'm good. There has to be some reason that Caleb Jackson didn't get a ton of touches this year, even in the bowl game. There must be some missing piece there that I don't quite know about. It's certainly not talent, because Caleb Jackson's ability, his size, power, and speed, in comparison to the rest of the guys in that group this season, he's the tops. That's not debatable at all. Biggest, strongest, fastest, he's the dude. Now, you want to tell me he doesn't quite know the entire playbook, especially with a fifth-year senior quarterback making checks? Okay. You want to tell me you've got a Heisman Trophy winner back there at quarterback? You cannot risk him getting pressured. You need the best pass-protecting back there, and Caleb Jackson's not it? Okay. You want to tell me that his vision's not quite there? All right. Like, I can see some of the technical aspects of the game potentially being tough for a young player. And that's why having Logan Diggs and Josh Williams around and John Emery for a lot of the season is a really nice luxury to have, because those guys you don't have to worry about. They've been around college since the second Obama administration. Like, they've been around a long time. Now, Caleb Jackson's talent level, Caden Durham's talent level is phenomenal. And I'm okay with where LSU's running back room is, no matter what Josh Williams decides he wants to do. I would, again, welcome Logan Diggs back, because he is a heck of a player. Curious to see that he decided to move on, but we'll see what the next move is for, right now, the Tiger running back who is entering the transfer portal. On the way in on the transfer portal front is Jair Brown. We know that LSU, for the third consecutive season, is going to have to do some work in the transfer portal in the defensive backfield. It started with Jordan Gilbert, the safety product from U-High and Texas A&M. Now you've got Jair Brown, who started his high school career at Warren Easton in New Orleans, then moved up to Lakota West up in Ohio before signing with Ohio State. He's a 5'11 corner who's played 2 seasons for the Buckeyes. He played more snaps than any true freshman Buckeye 2 years ago, and played the second most snaps on the entire Ohio State defense 2 seasons ago. He played 197 snaps. Sorry, that's incorrect. He played more snaps than any freshman for Ohio State last year, second place being their running back, Dallin Hayden. So he was on the field a lot as far as freshman reps go for Ohio State. He only played in 4 games last year, and statistically speaking, he hasn't done a ton. Now, cornerback is not a huge statistics position. You cover the guy, and they throw it somewhere else, you get nothing for that. The only way something happens is if you get your hands on the ball one way or another, or the guy you're covering gets his hands on the ball and you tackle him. So it's not a huge statistical position. Here's what I can say about Jair Brown. The people who evaluate high school football players thought him to be one of the better cornerbacks in the country. He was a 4-star recruit basically across the board. Ohio State thought enough of him to offer him a scholarship. They also thought enough of him as an early enrollee with a spring under his belt to play a good amount as a true freshman on a really, really good defense. I know those things to be true. I also know that he did not play in a lot of games this past year, and his production has not been statistically overwhelming to this point. But I say all that to say, you know what? We just don't really know. Look at the last 2 years with LSU in the defensive backfield. I don't need to run guys into the ground or name a bunch of names, but you'll know what I'm talking about here. They've taken 2 guys over the last 2 years that have been named all-conference at another P5 level. One of them worked out very well. One of them did not. They've taken 2 players from the FCS level in this state. One of them could keep up. One of them could not. They've taken 5 stars from elsewhere that have worked out or not. They've taken 3 stars that have gone elsewhere in the Southeastern Conference that have showed up, and some's been good and some's not been so good. This is not a situation where you're pulling in Caleb Williams from Oklahoma to USC. That's going to work out. Jahmyr Gibbs going from Georgia Tech to Alabama, that's going to work out. Most of the gets in the transfer portal are just kind of wait and see. So I'm certainly not here to tell you Jair Brown, oh my gosh, former 4-star, Ohio State, coming into LSU. This guy is ready to lock people down as a junior. This is going to be a stud. Great pickup for the LSU secondary. I'm also not ready to tell you, this guy didn't play that much last year. Like, he's probably not very good. I don't know. And I don't know that the LSU staff knows. Here's what I do know. They better go to the transfer portal and pull in some defensive backs. Because the group that ended up playing there at the end of this past year was super young, and they played like they were super young. And they've got a spring and a summer and a fall camp to get better, but there needs to be reinforcements brought in. Jordan Gilbert's one of those, and let's see what Jair Brown can do. This is the third straight year. Sevyn Banks came in, got hurt on a kickoff, couldn't play. J.K. Johnson comes in, breaks his leg in fall camp, can't play. Now Jair Brown, the third straight year LSU's brought in a DB from Ohio State. If you're going to be fishing in some waters for defensive backs, Ohio State, generally speaking, got some guys that can really play. At a certain point, lots of people thought Jair Brown can play. I'm certainly hopeful that he can step in and be a guy. He's got good measurables. He's got a good pedigree. The production has not been there. So I'm going to sit right on the fence on this. I'm not going to bang my fist on the desk here and say this is a huge hit. I'm not going to say, where's his statistics? This guy stinks. We'll see. They needed to bring in some guys in the transfer portal. They are starting to really build up the ranks from the high school level. You had some guys that got to the field pretty quickly this year. Talking about Javian Toviano, Ashton Stamps, Ryan Yates, Kylan Jackson. Like, there are a lot of guys from the high school players that have a lot of ability that were freshmen this year. You've brought in 6 or 7 DBs in this high school signing class. You brought in 2 from the portal. Like, they're starting to build it up the way that you should, but they still have to supplement it from the transfer portal, and I'm willing to take a shot on Jair Brown. New Orleans roots, good pedigree. Let's see who the defensive backs coach is and whether or not he can coach this guy up to be a really solid player. That's certainly the hope. So comings and goings in the transfer portal for LSU. Our Friday show is brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. When we come back, we'll get Preston Guy's thoughts on all this. He is the senior writer for TigerBait.com. Joins us every Friday. He'll do so next.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Jeep Grand Cherokee, $10,000 off new Jeep Grand Cherokee, and all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. 5 brands on one lot. Shop BayouAutomotive.com.
Live at lunch with Ott and Annie weekdays at 11 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. One final look at Saints Falcons and the Riot Radio Hours return. Join us Friday 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline we go. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, with us every Friday. Preston, how are you?
Hey, Hunt, what's going on? Been a really busy week. Seems like it's busier than when there's actually football going on.
It has been that, so I won't bury the lead. Your reaction when the press release came out and 4 LSU defensive coaches were escorted out?
The buzz around town before that was, well, Matt House may actually retain his job, and they just make some defensive assistant changes, which obviously would have been wildly unpopular. I put out a poll, got about 3,500 votes, and 95% of people were behind firing all these guys. So that would have been a lot for Brian Kelly to deal with. I do think he ultimately made the correct decision, because if you don't dramatically improve this defense next year, this team's in trouble in a big kind of way. And I think that shows that Kelly was self-aware enough of that and decided to not just accept a slight improvement, returning starters, making a position. No, he needed wholesale change. So I like that. Looks like they're going after Blake Baker, who's done a wonderful job at Missouri. We all know the job he did here with Damone Clark, changing him in 1 year from a non-factor to one of the best linebackers in the SEC. So that would clearly be a good hire, and there's lots of other talented names out there available, like a Jim Leonard or, even Bob Diaco on LSU staff was Notre Dame's defensive coordinator when they went to the national championship in 2012. So there are talented people out there and available.
I've sat here and thought about this, and I didn't think LSU's defense was that big an issue in 2022, and the bottom fell out. I mean, do you have a thought on that?
2022, Durante Jones.
I'm talking about 2022, which was House's first year.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was 2021. I'm mixing up.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was that bad. I think the 2022 defense, if that takes the field this year, I think LSU's playing on Monday night. And it's probably not a particularly close game because we saw what this offense did. But that's not the defense that got the lineup. That defense, they hit on a lot of portal guys in a big kind of way. A lot of these guys actually hadn't been coached that much by this coaching staff. Now, it had its moments of weaknesses. Like we saw against Tennessee, they gave up 40-plus, and it had its moments, but it was clearly a competent defense. This was not anything of the sort. They just hit on portal players better. And I think the other part is that you started to see these guys weren't being developed technique-wise the way you would have liked to over a period of time. You know, as your defensive staff is in place and doing their thing, technical stuff should improve, not get worse, as players have been in the program longer. Why are defensive linemen lining up 3 yards off the line of scrimmage? Why are their stances all wonky? Why is your tackling getting worse? Why can't your DBs identify the ball in the air and bat it down? Why can't they locate it? You know, there was a number of things besides the scheme that were getting worse, and I think that that's all evidence that a change needs to be made at coaching, because that is a reflection of coaching.
I've added this caveat every time I brought this topic up because I hate it so much, but I will bring it to you in form of a question. Have you made anything of the social media fallout from LSU players and former players when this happened?
Yeah, it all started with Mekhi Wingo actually not on social media. Got caught in a Jacques Doucet video after the game where he kind of just shrugged Matt House off. A lot of people made a big deal of that, and then he declared for the NFL, you know, and he, of course, Mekhi Wingo is such a high-quality young man. He would never publicly throw a coach under the bus, so he, of course, comes out on social media, defends him, says, no, there's no beef. I just was emotional, and I was telling everybody this was my last game. I'm going pro. That being said, in his declaration for the NFL, he thanked darn near every single coach except for his current defensive coach. He even thanked Coach Steeples, who I believe was his coach in high school.
Right.
Thanked the Missouri coaches. I mean, just everybody but Matt House, it sounded like. Then you see both LaTerrence Welsh and Harold Perkins with the rabbit got the gun now. Ain't fun when the rabbit got the gun. You know, basically saying this guy was kind of an ass. And now, you know, you're out of power, and when we are in power, you know, and the, you know, Harold Perkins posted something on multiple platforms. I saw Braden Swinson, when it got announced, he had a video of him literally kicking rocks. Yeah, I think that outside of, I don't think that has anything really to do with what kind of quality coaches they were. I think that just means the players didn't, at least one of these guys, the players did not like. I'm not going to go elaborate much further into that. I don't have any inside information. I'm just reading between the lines.
Look, we knew there was some significant issues in 2020 and 2021 in terms of communication between players and coaches, and what that got leaked out, and people got it. I didn't know any of this stuff until all this stuff started flying. I mean, how big a deal was this?
I have no idea how big a deal it actually was, but, you know, I can tell you this, you don't see this typically happening on well-run units. You might hear a player or two, you know, who got forced to transfer out. Like, think about guys like, remember when Chris Garrett, the three-star quarterback, got his scholarship pulled and he was taking shots at Les Miles afterward? There's occasionally a guy like that. I don't recall seeing this kind of reaction to guys losing their job. It's certainly, you know, I've been in locker rooms and stuff. We played for a coach in my high school. We played for a coach none of the players really liked. And I can tell you we were much less receptive to the coaching. It was a lot more eye rolls when he would tell us something, you know, versus when a coach who we had a good relationship would coach us up. It would be a completely different reaction. We want to be good for him. You ultimately want to be a coach that players want to be successful for, you know. So I do think that I just on the outside looking in, I'm not in these players' heads, but the fact that kind of stuff came out publicly multiple times, I think there's something there to that, and I think that there were some issues.
Jordan Gilbert a couple of weeks ago, U-High to A&M, here now to LSU. Jair Brown earlier today, the Ohio State transfer who's got New Orleans roots, both secondary guys. How much do you expect them to help?
I mean, based on what we saw last year, I mean, I could see both those guys being starters, right? They're both quality players, particularly the A&M kid, Jordan Gilbert. You know, he played in 10 games for Texas A&M. He did have a bad tackle against Miami that, you know, our friends at Texas A&M are all very quick to point out. But I think every one of those guys in the transfer portal is going to have a legitimate chance to compete for the starting spot, just based on you didn't really have much, if we're just being honest.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of playing time to go around on the defensive side of the ball, that's for sure. Logan Diggs announced today that he was entering the transfer portal. I gave in my open kind of my thoughts on it. That surprised me. I figured the NFL would be next stop for him. But what was your thought on that and for him and then for LSU's running back situation?
You know, I'm hearing some scuttlebutt that he might have had a pretty bad injury in the bowl game. Just some scuttlebutt, right? So most serious injuries, you don't ever bounce back to 100%. You might be 99%, but there's gonna be some lingering issues. And the thing is about the running back position for LSU next year, it's gonna have to evolve. You know, running backs only averaged about 22 carries per game. That's all running backs. It's not one running back. That's usually like one good bell cow gets you 22 carries in a game. Sometimes a good bell cow gets you 30. The whole backfield got you 22 per game. That means that more so than usual, this unit, their role was to be support units. Jaden Daniels is going to go out there and get you 100 yards. Make sure you're a good blocker. Make sure you're ready to catch out of the backfield. You know, you're going to have to get running yards out of your running back position. Garrett Nussmeier ain't running for 100 a game. You're going to need to get those running yards with your running back. So the position's going to change a good bit. And, you know, I think about guys like Caleb Jackson and guys like Trey Holly, and you're bringing in Caden Durham out of Duncanville High School. Those are all very talented young players, and those are players who aren't going to be guys out there that you're putting because they're good in pass blocking. You know, these are elite, good runners there to get you running yards. And I'm not saying Logan Diggs, when healthy, certainly was the best running back last year. But we don't know what his status is going to be after an injury. So, you know, I think in a way Logan Diggs needed to go to a less crowded backfield, and I think LSU needed a bit less crowding in their backfield, especially with the year after. Now you've got the number one running back in the country coming on board, Harlan Berry, and most likely Calvary Baptist, James Simon, not far behind him in all likelihood.
Chatting with Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. You mentioned recruiting there. You mentioned Harlan Berry and his commitment, and then Bryce Underwood. We hope for good news this weekend, and I think a lot of people are optimistic there. What is that class starting to shape up to look like as we move forward?
It's looking very good, Hunt. I mean, I predict Bryce Underwood will commit to LSU. His father told me a couple months ago LSU's the team to beat for his recruitment, and I haven't heard anything since then to contradict that. I expect LSU will land Bryce Underwood on Saturday. That will give LSU the number one class in the country by a significant margin. And we're talking about a class where you have the number one running back, you have the number one wide receiver, and you have the number one quarterback who's the number one overall player in the country. And from what I'm hearing, you know, most people consider Bryce Underwood a strong number one player in the country, stronger than your average number one player in the country. So, I mean, you've got, without trying to tap into any hyperbole here, you have the foundation of a truly special class. I am not certain or not if LSU has ever landed a recruit that is as big as Bryce Underwood. You've landed number one quarterbacks in the country, but they weren't number one overall players, Russell Shepard and Ryan Perlew, of course. You've never landed a guy who was number one overall. And you've landed number one overall, but that's Leonard Fournette type guys, you know, who are running backs. I'm not sure you've ever landed a quarterback at the biggest position and brought him in. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody's got something from back in the day, but it's special is what they've got to start for. You just hope that next year, but Brian Kelly's got his work cut out for him for next season. Yeah. It's a very tough schedule. You got to revamp that defense, and you're replacing, you know, three incredible players on your offense. You've got your work cut out for them. A disastrous season, and that class goes kaplooey. So you got some work to retain them, but right now, that 2025 class looks special.
Talk about next year. Your thoughts on Garrett Nussmeier's bowl performance?
I mean, you have to grade him an A. Now, was he perfect? There was a few throws, especially early in the game, those third down throws where he missed receivers, right? And there was a couple inaccurate throws. But, I'm pretty much done talking about the negatives. We're talking about a guy in his first ever start where your best receiver on the team opts out after 3 catches. I guess Brian Kelly technically opted him out based on what he said. But regardless, the best receiver in the country didn't play after 3 catches. And you're out there and you threw for 400 against a defense that ranks in the top 35 in the country. I mean, my goodness, that's special on your first start to do that. And by the way, you lost your starting running back in that game. Logan Diggs was out. So, yeah, you had to get it done. You only got 97 yards on the ground from your all running, production. And ultimately, of course, the defense gave you no help because they never give you help ever. So you're down to a 98-yard drive with 6 minutes to go. You're down 4, and you lead a 98-yard drive to take the lead and win the game. I mean, my goodness, that's you have to feel incredible about where LSU stands replacing Jaden Daniels. That's about as good as you could possibly expect.
Got one thought on the national championship game before we let you go?
Boy, look, I always like to tell fans who they should be rooting for through the lens of what's best for LSU. I don't care who you root.
Yeah, we don't care. Whatever.
If you want to root for Alabama, go for it. Some people like to root SEC, whatever. I'm telling you, if you want the purple and gold lenses, I'll give them to you. You root for whose win will hurt LSU the least in recruiting and who will use, players. Who will use this victory most to hurt you? Well, fortunately, that's taking care of business as the 2 SEC teams next year lost in the first round. Neither Alabama nor Texas will go on the recruiting trail and hang this championship on you. So you can kind of vote with your heart. Part of me is rooting for Washington because if Michigan wins, I mean, how long is it till this title's vacated? I hate vacated titles, dude. I cannot stand it. It's the dumbest punishment in all of sports. We all watched the game. We know who won the Heisman in 2005. It was Reggie Bush. It's just we kind of have to erase their names and formality. It's stupid. It's really, 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 really stupid. There's no reason to do it. So I hope we don't have to deal with that with Michigan. But on the other side, if Penix wins, those Washington fans are going to be acting up, talking about Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman. So I don't care. Root for whoever you want. Probably Washington would be the team to hurt you less because Bryce Underwood is there next year. I don't think it really matters, though. But we'll see. I think if you ask me who does win, I think Michigan is the better football team overall. But, man, seeing Washington play all year, man, I mean, they are tough. I think losing that running back is going to be the difference. Dylan Johnson, he's a beast. But I'll take Michigan. What's the spread, 4.5?
Yeah.
I don't know if I think I take Michigan by a field goal.
Preston Guy, TigerBait.com with us each and every Friday. Have a good weekend, man.
All right, you too, Hunt. Take it easy.
Always enjoy our chats with Preston. Our Friday show is always brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. When we come back, get you ready for Week 18. That's next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,000 off MSRP on new 23 Jeep Grand Cherokee. $10,000 off new Jeep Grand Cherokee. And all new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Join me and Jimmy out for the Monday edition of Live at Lunch from the Beau Rivage in Biloxi. We're recapping a huge weekend in college basketball plus the final weekend of the NFL regular season. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Monday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Excited for Hour 2. Billy Embody at the top of Hour 2 in about 22 minutes. We'll talk to Billy about all things recruiting. He's been at All-American game practices. Bryce Underwood committing tomorrow. Harlan Berry committed earlier this week. Transfer portal comings and goings. Lots going on. Sounds like Dominic McKinley has been phenomenal in his workouts. We'll get Billy Embody's thoughts on all of that coming up at 2 o'clock. Travis Brown talking some hoops with us coming up at 2:30. LSU and A&M, 7:30 tomorrow night at Reed Arena over in College Station. But biggest story in sports this weekend is, of course, the National Football League Week 18. Let's go. Tier 4, this is the bad stuff. There is a little bit of it, not a ton. Tier 4, not great. Bengals hosting the Browns. The Bengals haven't won a division game this year, which is not very good. They could win this one, theoretically, because Jeff Driscoll is playing quarterback for the Browns. Their 5th quarterback of the season. How many teams make the playoffs starting 5 quarterbacks? Cleveland is this year, but that game doesn't mean a whole lot. Jets and Patriots. If you watch this game, God bless you. The Jets have 17 touchdowns on the season. That's the worst in the NFL. New England is right behind them at 25, and the weather's going to be bad. Take the under 30.5. They're not going to score. They can't score. The Jets defense is good. There's no chance they score 30.5. Is it Bill Belichick's last game as a Patriots coach? We shall see. Broncos are at the Raiders. No playoffs for either of these two teams. Jarrett Stidham is like the Grim Reaper at this point. Last year, he was it for Derek Carr. Showed up, sit-down veteran. This year, he's it for Russell Wilson. Sit-down veteran. Nobody cares who wins this game. That's why it's in Tier 4. Tier 3, a little bit better. The Jags win the NFC South with a win at the Titans, and it might be Derrick Henry's last game as a Tennessee Titan. Titans are 1-10 in December and January the last 2 years. That's why Mike Vrabel might be in a little bit of trouble, even though he would get another job pretty quickly. He's a good coach. It's just not working out there in Tennessee right now. The Bears are at the Packers. The Bears haven't beaten Green Bay since 2018. It is now 2024, and they're in the same division. Y'all don't get this in your feeds like I do with my Cubs people spilling over to Bears stuff. They are sick of losing to the Packers. And if they can beat the Packers, they can knock them out of the playoffs, and they don't even have to worry about the number 1 pick because they're already getting it via Carolina. They want to win this game worse than they want oxygen. Jordan Love's been fantastic the second half of the year. Actually leads the NFL in QBR the second half of the year. I don't think the Bears will get it done in Lambeau Field. Eagles are at the Giants. A loss for the Giants would mean that's their 4th 12-loss season in 7 years. They've got an 85% chance to get a top 5 pick. The Eagles need a Dallas loss and a win over the Giants to win the NFC East. Speaking of the Cowboys, they are at Washington. Cowboys win the East with a win. Simple. Win, and you are in terms of division winners. Washington, interestingly enough, if you want a local angle here, they could get the 2nd pick in the draft. Jaden Daniels to the nation's capital. New ownership group. We'll see. Seattle's at Arizona. The Seahawks need a win and the Bears to beat the Packers to get in. Arizona is saying they expect Kyler Murray to be back. I was thinking that might be a place where there's a quarterback shakeup, but he's played decent since coming back this year. The Chiefs are at the Chargers. Kansas City is locked in at the 3 seed. The Chargers are going to pick towards the top of the draft. Could pick in the top 8. That's a really attractive job, Jim Harbaugh. You got a little bit of money to spend, a really high draft pick, and a good quarterback. Plus, you live in San Diego and L.A. That sounds pretty good to me. Tier 2, this is the better stuff for the weekend. The Steelers are at the Ravens. Pittsburgh's 6-1 against Baltimore since 2020. I would not have guessed that, but they are. They've won 3 straight against the Ravens in Baltimore. Would not have guessed that either. Lamar Jackson's not going to play. Ravens kind of sitting everybody as they are in good spot going into the playoffs. The Vikings are at the Lions. Detroit is going to be either the 2 seed or the 3 seed. The Vikings have a chance to make the playoffs, but it's a 3% chance to make the playoffs. This win would be Detroit's 2nd 12-win season in the history of the franchise. Think they're going to be keyed up for the playoffs? I would imagine so. You know about this one. The Bucs are at the Panthers. If Tampa wins, they're in the playoffs. If Tampa loses, they are out of the playoffs. Does good Tampa show up? It has sometimes. Does bad Tampa show up? It really can. We'll see. The Panthers have secured the worst record in the league. Usually means top pick. Not this time. They've got Bryce Young in their back pocket, and they'll let the Bears do the picking first. The Rams are at the 49ers. Both teams are in the playoffs. San Francisco locked in as the 1 seed. The Rams are going to be the 6 or the 7. Both teams are resting a lot of their starters. Just a side note here, San Francisco has won 12 straight division games. That is remarkably hard to do in the NFL. It's not the greatest division ever, but it's not a disaster either. And San Francisco continues to play at a really, really high level. They'll be the team to beat in the National Football Conference. In Tier 1, the best 2 games of Week 18 in the NFL. Texans are at the Colts. Last year, these 2 teams played in Week 18, and the number 1 pick was on the line. This year, the winner gets into the playoffs. Big reversal of fortune for those 2 teams right there. We'll see what happens in Indy. And the Bills are at the Dolphins. The winner wins the AFC East and the 2 seed in the AFC playoffs. Buffalo could miss the playoffs if they lose. Miami's in. Buffalo is going from the 2 seed to out potentially, depending on the outcome of this game. Buffalo could miss the playoffs again if they lose, and either the Jaguars lose, the Steelers lose, or the Texans and Colts tie. We'll worry about that when we get to it. That's your look around the NFL in Week 18. Certainly, we will talk a little bit more about the Saints and the Falcons coming up in hour number 2. I got a lot to get to in hour number 2. Our Friday show is brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Check them out at corksfishandshrimp.com. The menu is right there. Awesome, awesome fried seafood. They got the jumbo Gulf shrimp, got the catfish that's just fantastic. It's not fishy, not oily. It's crispy and clean, and it is fantastic. It's a great drive-through experience. I know a lot of you folks from South Louisiana looking to go, drive-through for my seafood. I don't think so. just go to Corks once. Brand new food concept here in Baton Rouge from the folks that brought you Couillons. They've got it right there on Government between Foster and Jefferson. It is fantastic. It's great for lunch, great for dinner, and they do great catering work as well. If you've got a birthday party, feeding the office, watch party for the Saints on Sunday, Corks can do big trays of their jumbo fried catfish and fried shrimp, do those crispy shoestring fries, all your sauces, tartar, cocktail, the Cork sauce, which is my go-to. Got your ketchups and whatnot as well. CorksFishandShrimp.com is where you can find the menu. Corks, bringing you our Friday shows. We'll come back and close out hour number 1 next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electric. Check them out. Boudreaux's Electric, protecting you from power outages. Power outages are such a nuisance. They're a nuisance when it happens for like 45 minutes, especially when you're trying to watch something on TV or take a shower, or you got a newborn in the house and it's not a good situation. That's just for the 30-minute outage. What about when the hurricanes run through and you don't have power for 5 or 6 days? Not great. Whether you're staying in the house or you evacuated and you come back to a 96-degree house and you have to throw everything out of your fridge. Boudreaux's can protect you from that. Give them a call at 225-300-9389, 225-300-9389. Every single Boudreaux's Electric generator comes with a free 10-year warranty, a free 10-year warranty. Neil and Melissa have operated Boudreaux's Electric for 40 years. Let them come out, look at your home, show you what they can do, and give yourself the peace of mind that you don't have to worry about losing electricity in your home or your business if you're a business owner or a commercial property owner. Boudreaux's Electric, that number one more time, 225-300-9389, Boudreaux's Electric.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Hey, look what I found! The motivation I needed to live healthier. My new favorite sport. I found my groove. I found I'm part fish.
My second win when I needed it most.
I found more than a gym.
The affordable childcare this mom needed. Time for myself. We found our why.
Have you found yours?
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our
This Sunday, as we bring you 3 different NFL games. We start with the noon kickoff, the Vikings and Lions. Immediately following that, it's Bears and Packers. And then the night game, the Bills at Dolphins. Tune in this Sunday to hear all 3 of those games here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Close up hour number 1 here on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. A couple guests coming up in hour number 2. Billy Embody in 10 minutes. Won't want to miss that. And then Travis Brown from the Bryan College Station Eagle talking A&M basketball in hour number 2. LSU and A&M tomorrow night at 7:30 inside Reed Arena in College Station. I just wanted to briefly kind of give my thoughts on LSU entering this game. We'll get Travis's thought on A&M. Usually I would lead the show with this on Fridays, but that's where we are right now with where LSU has played in basketball for the last year and a half. And I don't have delusions of grandeur about the way this is going to go in Southeastern Conference play over 18 games. I don't think that Saturday night is going to go very well. A&M has won 12 games in a row in that arena, and going back to last year, including conference games, they're very tough to beat there, and they have a good team. And I think they'll beat LSU. I will say this, LSU has put players in a little bit of a different position, especially offensively, the last 2 weeks with Jalen Cook in the lineup. You have freed Mike Williams up to play off the ball and to take some pressure off of him. Jalen Cook's handling the ball. He's getting the ball into the front court. He's setting up the offense and initiating it. And Mike Williams is able to not have to deal with that as a freshman and play a little bit off the ball. And you saw him knock down 6 threes in a game last week. And he's playing Northwestern. So, look, I don't care about the score of that game. They're a 2-win team. But it's still objectively the truth that Jalen Cook is taking a lot off of his plate and allowing him to do some of that stuff. Carlos Stewart played better against Northwestern State. Maybe that's because he's playing Northwestern State and not Texas or Syracuse or Kansas State, but maybe it's because he's in a little bit better position to succeed because Jalen Cook is out there. I think that I expected this team to be pretty good on offense, and I still think they can be pretty good on offense. They're not what I thought in the front court because Will Baker has struggled. Hopefully, like Matt McMahon said a couple of weeks ago, that's more so due to injury and not, the fact that he's a good player at Nevada and not in the SEC. We'll see. That's something that'll bear itself out. He's going to have to deal with Henry Coleman III tomorrow, which is not a fun chore. A&M is number 1 in the nation in offensive rebounding percentage. They annihilate people on the glass. And so Will Baker and Damian Collins, and we'll see if Jalen Reed is back, and those guys are going to have to do some work on the glass. And if LSU wants to stay in the game tomorrow, they're going to have to make a lot of shots. They're going to have to – Jalen Cook's going to have to be on from 3. You're going to have to see more of the same from Mike Williams, need a couple of corner threes from Mwani, and you're going to have to get on the glass. If you don't rebound when A&M has the basketball, and you've got Wade Taylor and Boots Radford out there playing and Henry Coleman, like they will destroy you both on the glass and mentally, because it's really difficult to get down to a three-point stance and defend for 25, 30 seconds, which Buzz's teams force you to do, and think you've got to stop because they miss, and then they get on the glass and put one up and get an and one. Like that will cripple you mentally to play defense for 30 seconds, force a miss, and then them get a three-point play because they got on the glass. They will do that. They will do that. So, again, we'll talk to Travis about where A&M is. They've struggled with good teams. I'm not going to put LSU in the category of some of the teams that have beaten A&M, like Memphis and Virginia. Like they've been beaten by some good teams. But hopefully LSU goes out there and plays hard and improves. That's what I'm looking for at this point. I know that there is a sizable portion of the fan base that doesn't care at all about what they're doing in basketball, and that's okay and reasonable. You're locked in on the transfer portal and looking at the new baseball poll that came out today, all right? And there's a portion of you that is irritated but paying attention. And for that portion that actually cares, like I'm telling you, they're not going to do very well in SEC play over 18 games, in my opinion. But I want to see them get better. There has to be a foundation and some sort of improvement in year 2 over time. I'm giving you from Christmas to March 1st to show me something. And so we'll see what they can do tomorrow inside Reed Arena. 7:30 tip-off, be the last game in Southeastern Conference play, and they'll open home conference play on Tuesday at 8 o'clock against a bad Vanderbilt team. Vanderbilt's lost to Grambling. They've lost to Presbyterian. Like, they're bad. And LSU really needs to win that game on Tuesday. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But we'll see what they can do to fight against A&M, who's pretty good. And we'll talk about it with Travis Brown coming up in the second hour. We'll pause for Sports Center. When we come back, don't miss our sit-down or interview with Billy Embody, who is all over all the recruiting stuff. Harlem Berry, Bryce Underwood, Dominic McKinley, transfer portal, all kinds of stuff. Come back with us for Hour 2 on a Friday, presented by Corks.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
His name was King. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown with a division title on the line. Will Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence be able to play against the Titans? Right now, it appears Lawrence will be a game-time decision with a right shoulder sprain. The Jaguars win the AFC South title with a win on Sunday. Dolphins and Bills for the AFC East title Sunday night. Miami coach Mike McDaniel.
This is the only game that matters to this team. It's very important to each and every person in the organization to accomplish a goal that was talked about April 17th, the first day of phase one, and that's winning the division.
Mike McDaniel. The last weekend of the regular season opens tomorrow with a doubleheader starting at 4:30 Eastern on ESPN and ABC TV. First up, the Ravens host the Steelers. Then the Colts host the Texans. Major League outfielder Michael Brantley announces his retirement after 15 seasons. He played for the World Series champion Astros in 2021.
Hey, it's Evan Cohen. Coming up Monday, is this really the last time we are going to see Bill Belichick coaching the Patriots? That can't be right. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN, as Mario so eloquently just put it in the break. 1 hour till the weekend for this crew right here. Hang out with us until we hand things off to After Further Review. We'll hear from Travis Brown of the Bryan College Station Eagle and LSU A&M basketball in 30 minutes. But for now, let's turn our attention to the LSU football program and talent acquisition. For that, we turn to Billy Embody, he of the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 Network. He's on the Jim's Firearms Hotline, and he's with us now. Billy, how are you?
Doing well. How about you?
Doing very well. Y'all are quite busy at this point. There's a lot going on in the LSU football world. Let's start with what we know. We know that Harlem Berry has committed to LSU. What did LSU get here?
Yeah, one of the most explosive running backs in the country. We have him as the number one running back in America for the class of 2025. And you get Harlem Berry on board. You have Decorium Moore on board. Those are the top players at their positions in the 2025 class. And that's before we get to Bryce Underwood on Saturday, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit.
Yep.
As the number one quarterback and number one prospect. But Harlem Berry is so explosive. He's got the track times. He's got the speed that you want in a top-flight running back. And he does it both running the football and catching it. He's shown that ability to make big plays, make the home run play, in whatever way St. Martin's gets him the ball. And so he's a really, really explosive back. Our analysts have compared him to Jamal Charles, and one of them even kind of floated the Reggie Bush comparison in terms of their play style. Reggie Bush is obviously unbelievable, but so is Harlem Berry in his own right. So that would be pretty great for LSU if it worked out that way. But just a really explosive back who can play all three downs, especially in the modern era of running backs and how they're used. So he's a guy that's been a big priority for Frank Wilson, and Frank Wilson was able to get him to commit early, which is even better for LSU. It's kind of been building. It's funny, you look at Brian Kelly's first couple of classes here, and you saw in 2023, you saw some of those guys kind of be later commitments in the cycle from Louisiana, and then it got a little bit better in 2024 with some of the guys that jumped on board. And now in 2025, we're seeing Harlem Berry, Keelan Moses, and some of these other guys like Teron Francis and J.D. LaFleur. Brett Borlaug, of course, has been on board for a while, but they have a lot of guys in Louisiana who are jumping on board early, which bodes well, especially with a 2025 class that is supposed to be really good in the cycle.
Let's stick with Bryce Underwood here. He'll make his decision on Saturday. I want to ask you kind of about the player, but I also want to ask about the recruiting effort from LSU. Not a lot of quarterbacks from Michigan end up in Baton Rouge. How much is Joe Sloan involved here?
Well, let's be real here. You know, they struck gold in Ohio, and now that Michigan's, you know, in the college football playoff, they're saying, you know what, let's move over there. No, but in all seriousness, quarterback recruiting is a little bit more national, and most of the top flight quarterback coaches know that they have to be good national recruiters and be able to walk into any scenario and situation and recruit them hard and reel them in. And Joe Sloan, you know, won out with Colin Hurley. He won out with Ricky Collins, his first two quarterback commits and signees while in Baton Rouge. And now he went all the way up to Michigan to go get Bryce Underwood. And if he does, in fact, commit to LSU, which we expect him to on Saturday early evening, it'll just be a historic land on many levels for LSU. Not only you're getting a guy who could very well be number one draft pick at some point. That's the type of arm talent. That's the type of athletic ability he has to his game. But you also get just that statement piece where you can say, okay, all right, here's what our offense is going to look like in 2025 in terms of the guys that LSU is going to bring in. And they're all the number one, you know, players at their positions, which is pretty darn rare in the recruiting era to get the triplets, so to speak, all lined up. And so LSU's closing in on that. You, of course, got to sign them, but that is something with a quarterback where you feel pretty good that once they make these decisions, they, for the most part, do a good job of sticking with them because they have to invest in themselves. They have to invest in the players around them and recruit for them. You can't, I mean, you can, but you don't really want to be flipping and flopping around and changing your decision because you've been trying to help build the team around you. And it's not necessarily the case that others would just follow you to wherever you went. But when you're committed and you're locked in like they'd expect Bryce Underwood to be, you could then really make inroads with some prospects that maybe you wouldn't necessarily be able to get in. So Joe Sloan's done a great job. He's you know, pushed all the right buttons here with his family, with Bryce, everything. So that just looks like a guy that we're going to be talking about plenty over the next few years for LSU, and a historic piece to the class to once again potentially get on board early here.
How would you handicap Joe Sloan's chances at becoming the full-time offensive coordinator moving forward? I know you'll have a hot board up at On 3, but what do you think Joe Sloan's chances are here?
Yeah, I don't know as much about the chances, so I want to word this right, but if I'm kind of guessing, educated guess a little bit,
sure,
I got to believe he's the favorite.
Yeah.
You know, what he did with Jaden Daniels, his development, and then you have what he did with Garrett Nussmeier in the bowl game, getting him ready for his first start and putting that together. And then on top of that, you're going to have Bryce Underwood coming in the future. I just think it makes a lot of sense to promote him. And he's a top young up-and-coming assistant. And if you don't promote him, this is kind of the line to walk for Brian Kelly, does that mean that he'd never be your pick at offensive coordinator if you go out and hire somebody else who gets a head coaching job? Would two more seasons, for example, of him seasoning and learning and developing Garrett Nussmeier and signing Bryce Underwood, would that change his overall situation enough? And if not, then, you know, Joe Sloan's got to go be a play caller somewhere. So that's why I kind of think he's the favorite on top of just, you know, his overall body of work that he's done since being at LSU. He's really, really sharp and done a great job. So it feels like he ends up being the OC, but Brian Kelly, I'm sure, is going to go do all of his due diligence and look at any options that are out there and go from there.
It's a high school all-star game season. A lot of those going on all throughout the country. Dominic McKinley appears to have had a pretty solid week. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, our national ranking team was out at the Under Armour practices and the game this week, and I caught up with them in San Antonio for the All-America Bowl which is the Adidas Bowl. And, they just raved about what Dominic McKinley was able to do on the field. He was explosive. He had dominant wins in one-on-ones against some of the best offensive linemen in the country. And he just showed that he is more technically sound, I would say, than even the film kind of suggests, because you can be as big and athletic as he is, which we've known about for a long, long time now. But when you do it at the high school level, you can kind of get away with things because you are that big and strong and fast. So when you go out and you play with the leverage he did and against some of the top offensive linemen and you dominate the way he did, that was really encouraging. So a stock-up performer is what Dominic McKinley walked away with. One of the top overall players that was at the Under Armour game, and he really, really showed out in a positive way. So LSU looking like they really struck gold getting him late.
And you saw a couple of other LSU commitments in person scouting these All-American practices. What can you tell us there?
Yeah, the one that really, I think, has cemented himself as a guy that should move up in the rankings from this group that was out there is Kylan Billiot, who is a former basketball player who's really locked in on playing football his last 2 years of high school. And, I mean, he looked much more polished than even I expected him to be when he was out there for the All-America Bowl. He was competitive. He beat some really good competition at the corner spot. So he looks like somebody that as he adds weight and continues to refine his craft, I think he's got a chance to be a draft pick without a doubt and have a big impact at LSU. He just seems to want it too, which is a big part of it. And he's an awesome kid. So I was really happy for him in that regard. And then they had Devon Keys out there as well, the linebacker signee, who had a really strong last day that I was out there watching him. So look for him in the game on Saturday on NBC at noon. And then they also have Jawan Johnson in the secondary, who's a little nicked up. I don't know if he's going to play. And then Kalaj Cobbins, who's a versatile linebacker who's signed with LSU. And then at center, Cohen Eccles, the late addition from Katy, Texas. He was playing with some really nice leverage as well. I think he's a really good physical talent for LSU's offensive line. He'll take some time to kind of get his body a little bit in order, but he's stocky and can play with good leverage in the run game. So I liked what I saw from him as well.
You thought, well, this is a pretty good 12-minute segment there. That's a lot of information. This is, I promise you, the tip of the iceberg. What you get at the Bengal Tiger, they're pumping information by the truckload onto that message board. Shea Dixon, Matthew Bruni, Billy Embody. It's awesome. I've very much enjoyed being on there each and every day. And, Billy, we appreciate you coming on.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me.
Billy Embody, part of the Bengal Tiger on the On3 network. They're all over the place right now with the portal. LSU looking for defensive coaches, high school recruiting, all-star games. They've got you covered over there at the Bengal Tiger. Appreciate Billy for giving us a little bit of information. I think this class that they put together looks really strong, in my opinion, based on the quality of the players in the state. Now, as we know, half your guys may bolt. A&M put together the greatest recruiting class in the history of the world, and half of them left, maybe more than half, after 2 years. So we understand what that means this day and age. But if you start to look ahead at the class to follow, the 2025 class, and if Bryce Underwood would to commit to LSU tomorrow and they were to keep this group together, it looks really, really good based on the in-state guys and what they can do outside the state. LSU's bringing in a lot of really good high school players, and I still contend that's the best way to do this thing, is to go heavy high school and then supplement from the transfer portal. We'll see if Ole Miss proves me wrong next year. But, of course, we'll just have to find out next fall. But I think LSU's in a pretty good spot in terms of the health of the program. I think there are some question marks defensively moving into next year, but they're trying to fix it as quickly as possible. So appreciate Billy for giving us all of that insight. Saints and Falcons on Sunday. We're talking about it next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
His name was King. He had a horse along
Monday night, we bring you the College Football National Championship as the Washington Huskies face off against the Michigan Wolverines. Kickoff begins at 6:30, and we will have full coverage for you here. So tune in to catch the National Championship game here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
So the Saints and Falcons will play at noon on Sunday in the Dome, and their fate lies in the hands of the Carolina Panthers, which is not a very comfortable place to be because the Panthers stink on ice. However, sometimes the Bucs show up and they're atrocious, and if the Bucs show up and they're atrocious on Sunday, the winner of Saints and Falcons will win the atrocious NFC South. But we'll talk about it because that's where we are at this point. The Saints and Falcons have both been wildly inconsistent all year. The Falcons have played musical chairs at quarterback. The Saints have played musical chairs with whether or not they're going to show up, especially in first half. But the Bucs have done the same thing, and that's why they're all in this situation. I'm curious how the Saints game day team will handle the score of the Buccaneers and the Panthers. I would suggest if it's 17-0 Panthers in the second quarter, you run that thing on a loop in the Superdome and get everybody fired up. If Bryce Young comes out and throws a pick six and all of a sudden it's 21-0 Tampa, maybe you just pull that one off the rotating scoreboard. I think that's probably how things will go. The Saints and Falcons have to worry about themselves at this point. And my concern in this game for New Orleans is rushing defense. It's been really, really bad a lot this year. And that's a significant problem against an Atlanta team that really wants to run the ball. Bijan Robinson has had a couple of 100-yard games this year. Tyler Algier has been very good running the ball, and the Saints' defense has been bad. They've allowed more than 130 rushing yards in 4 of their last 6 games. And back in November, when they played Atlanta, the Falcons ran for 228 yards. In fact, Atlanta has run for 200 or more yards the last 3 times they've played the Saints. And if all you're asking, whoever it is at quarterback for the Falcons, they've switched it every week for the last month to just turn around and hand it off to these 3 guys, Patterson, Robinson, Algiers. Well, that's pretty easy Sunday, pretty easy day at the office. They've got to find somehow, some way to slow that down. If you force Taylor Heineke to beat you throwing, you at least give the strength of your defense a chance to win you the game against a very, very mediocre NFL quarterback. Would you rather Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier hammering away against Nathan Shepard, Colin Saunders, Brian Brzee and company? Would you rather go down that way, or would you rather go down with Taylor Heineke throwing it on Paulson Adebo, throwing it on Alante Taylor, throwing it on the group that's been pretty good all year and especially opportunistic when it comes to turnovers? They got Baker Mayfield twice last week. That's where I am in terms of the Saints defense. You find a way, whether it's numbers, scheme, willpower, home crowd, I don't care. Don't let them run for 200 yards. If Atlanta runs for 200 yards on Sunday, they're going to win. And that's the biggest statistic on that side. The Saints offense, while not spectacular, I'm not going to mistake them for the greatest show on turf Rams. They've been efficient the last few weeks. Not against great teams, we know. And the Falcons defense has been pretty good. I saw a stat, I don't know what number backs it up, but they've got a lot of numbers these days. They ranked the units in the NFL, every offense and every defense, not special teams, but every offense and every defense. And they put them all into one list in terms of their efficiency. The Falcons defense was in the top 10 in terms of units in the NFL. And they did a good job against the Saints, especially early in Atlanta. But the Saints have kind of fortified things up front. I'd love to have all pro Ramchick back, but that's not in the cards. He's on IR. But Pete's done okay, and they've held the wall for Derek Carr well enough. And Carr has been pretty good, and they've been better in the red zone than they were in that disastrous run that was basically all of October and November, half of November. But they've gotten a little bit better. And so maybe there's a rhythm developing there. AK probably not going to play. Go to Jamal Williams. Let's see if Kendre Miller can get involved. Probably as a third down guy. But Olave seems healthy, and Shaheed's back and rolling. And I'd love to see Juwan Johnson stay involved. He was so good in Tampa and can be a really good weapon for you in the passing game. I think, and I've been projecting very poor environments in the Dome really since the Jacksonville debacle. That was your chance on a Thursday night. City's fired up. Get in the Dome. All the air came out of the balloon. And it really hasn't been that great since. But I think they'll show up on Sunday. For those of you that live in the Baton Rouge market and think, the Saints don't like the Falcons, go to New Orleans. They really don't like the Falcons. And the winner of this game could go to the playoffs. The Saints fans, while they can still, tote their Super Bowl ring and 28-3 and all that, not a real pleasant thing to lose to the Falcons and all of a sudden the Bucs throw up on themselves and they go to the playoffs and you sit at home. They got quarterback musical chairs over there. That's embarrassing. I think it'll be in good environment early, and then depending on as people refresh their phone feeds and how things are going with Tampa and Carolina, that'll maybe dictate how the environment is. This is not a place we wanted the Saints to be. If you said it's totally unexpected, I wouldn't quite believe you unless you've got real black and gold glasses on. We knew all along this was probably headed for somewhere 8, 9, or 10 wins. 10 wins, you felt that's probably going to win the South. 9 wins, well, you're going to have to see, and that's where you are. And 8 wins is probably going to come up one short. And, like, while we didn't want it to be that way, like, you followed the winding road, and here we are. So, Mario, I've kind of laid this out. You'll be in the Dome on Sunday. Do you disagree with anything that I've laid out here?
No. I mean, I think it's a little disappointing that you still couldn't take advantage of the schedule you had.
Yes.
I mean, so many opportunities. You think back to the game in Green Bay where you had a 17-0 lead. Like, just get one of those and you're in really good shape this weekend. But, hey, man, it's one last game of the season. I said on OTB this morning, I'm looking for the young players to perform well. You mentioned Alontae Taylor, got benched. I thought responded really well. Isaac Yadam, the other cornerback, has been great since Marshawn has gone down. We'll see about Kendre Miller. It sucks he hasn't been able to get on the field all week. But I want to see what guys can still be part of the next iteration of the Saints as they try to get over the Sean Payton era, because they're not over it just yet.
They're not. And as I've said, I think that the next Saints team that really, truly we feel is a contender in the NFC is not going to feature Ryan Ramczyk or Michael Thomas or Demario Davis or Cam Jordan, and really Alvin Kamara at this point. I would suggest that wouldn't be the case at his age in that position. So here we are, and it's an opportunity for the Saints to try to get a win. I'm going to pick the Saints to win this week. I've got the Saints winning this one at 24-14. I'm going to suggest that the defense will show up and that Taylor Heineke won't get going. Of course, he doesn't have to if they turn around and hand the football off and just hammer away at a poor Saints front 4. I would not say front 7 because I'm not going to loop Demario Davis into that group just yet. But I think front 4, it's safe to say, has not been awesome. That will be the game plan for this Falcons team. It's whether or not the Saints can stand up to it or whether or not they're going to let the Falcons run for 200 for the 4th straight time against New Orleans. I'm betting against that. I'm not quite going to go out on a limb and pick Carolina to win a football game this week, so I think the Saints show up in maybe the worst place you can be, which is the first team out of the playoffs in your division, so you don't get the top 7 draft pick and you don't get a chance to compete for a Super Bowl. But it feels like that's where the Saints are ticketed. We'll certainly see as they get it going at noon on Sunday. That game is on CBS. New Orleans, a 3-point choice. The over-under is 42. For all my Saints content all year long, if you're looking for black and gold football, you can find it on YouTube. Hunt on Saints is the channel. We've really grown that throughout this fall, and appreciate y'all for subscribing and paying attention. If you haven't subscribed yet, do so. It gets all your Saints content into 10, 12-minute segments right there on your homepage on YouTube, and we appreciate you liking, subscribing, commenting, and reviewing. It's been a lot of fun. Growing that channel hasn't been fun watching the Saints every week, but hopefully on Sunday against the Dirty Birds, it'll be a little bit more palatable. So we'll react to it coming up on Monday. Speaking of hasn't been great, LSU men's basketball starts SEC play coming up on Saturday night, 7:30 at Reed Arena in College Station. We'll chat with Travis Brown, who covers the Aggies for the Bryan College Station Eagle. That's next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Hi, Julio Malera here, CEO of the Business Report, inviting you and your team to the annual Elevate Your Leadership and Your Team event, featuring 15-time best-selling author John Gordon and international leadership speaker Charlotte Gamble on Wednesday, February 7th, starting at 8 a.m. It's your chance to ignite your leadership skills and elevate your team to another level. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity to lead with impact in 2024. Get your tickets today at businessreport.com. That's businessreport.com.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. One final look at Saints Falcons and the Riot Radio Hours return. Join us Friday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
SEC basketball is upon us. LSU and Texas A&M from Reed Arena in College Station coming up tomorrow, 7:30 tip-off. We want to talk Aggies. We bring on our guy Travis Brown from the Bryan College Station Eagles, so we do so right now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Travis, Happy New Year. How are you?
Hey, can't complain. It's that conference basketball season starting up, so it's a real exciting games coming.
There are. We'll talk basketball here briefly, but I do want to touch on football first. Mike Elko, his reception in College Station, and what has that been like over the last month or so?
It's been great for the fans, and especially these last couple days. He's kept us reporters working with all of the transfer portal additions he's made. I think there was 4 yesterday. I think they've already had 1 today, if I'm not mistaken. So he's been mowing and going since he's gotten here and adding his coaching staff and players to the roster.
We know that when LSU went through this a couple of years ago, the roster was absolutely decimated. As far as numbers and kind of where they were, I know a few folks decided to enter the transfer portal and come back to College Station. Were things really, really tough from a numbers perspective, or was it not quite as bad as we may have thought from the outside?
For this season or last season?
For this coming year, like for next football season, yeah.
Sure, yeah. So far they have 17 players out. They brought in 11, so you're getting pretty close to back to even. I want to say they were 3 off of the limit for last season. So they had, and you never know with walk-ons and things like that, kind of how the scholarship thing shook up. But I think they're back in within about They have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 7 players already declared the NFL draft. So you're within about 10 scholarships, plus or minus, coming into the season. So probably about where they want to be. They still are have their irons in the fire for a couple of those transfer guys. So they have some scholarships left there, but they should be about where they want to be.
Yeah, that doesn't sound terrible at all. LSU was in terrible shape when they got off the field in that Texas Bowl a couple of years ago. That sounds about right in a coaching change in the transfer portal era. So let's talk some hoops now. Obviously, Buzz came in, and 2 years ago they had that great run at the end and just got left out. Last year, phenomenal in Southeastern Conference play with some really high expectations and a lot of players coming back this year. They played a great schedule, and they've played close games. They just haven't won enough of those big ones to this point. So kind of what's the feel around this team as they enter SEC play?
Yeah, I think that they're pretty happy where they are because, they already are 3-3 with quad one games. And last season they didn't get their first quad one win until I think it was like January 12th against Missouri. So they purposely went out and played that tough schedule. All of their losses are against quad one teams. Yeah, they are. They are 9-4, but they're 25 in the net. They're not anywhere close to the bubble or anything like that. I think you'd be pretty darn happy with where they are coming into conference play, and with the games that they've played, they're conference teams they're going to play that are a lot worse than some of these non-conference games that they played. So I'm not saying that getting to SEC play by any means is going to be a rest, but there's a rhythm, there's a routine that they're going to get into. They played a lot of these non-conference games on the road. They're going to be able to be in their own barn a few more times through conference play. I think they swung with a donut on the on-deck circle in this non-conference play, to where that hopefully for the A&M fans, that when they get into conference play here, they're going to be able to swing for the fences a few more times.
Yeah, the loss is a ranked FAU team coming off a Final Four, Virginia, Memphis, Houston, who's been phenomenal the last couple of years. So really, really respectable losses to this point as we get into the new year. Number 1 in the country in offensive rebounding percentage. Would you say that's the identity of their offense at this point?
It very much is. I mean, if you look at their numbers, their effective field goal percentage is bad. Their three-point percentage is bad. Their two-point percentage isn't great. The way they've been able to have, let's see, Ken Palm has, I believe, is the number 5 adjusted efficiency offense in the country, is that they're getting offensive rebounds and they're getting second chance points. They're in the top 3 in number of second chance points, percentage of points from second chance points, and the number of second chance points they've had per game coming into this. So, yeah, Wade Taylor might not be shooting the 3 like people thought he might be, but those 3-pointers a lot of times are turning into basically post-entry passes, and Henry Coleman is scooping them up and putting them back, or Anderson Garcia is one of the best offensive rebounds, one of the best rebounders in the country, and he's been able to put them back or get to the free throw line. So it's a little bit of an unconventional offense. It's not pretty, but it's one of the most efficient offenses in the country.
And LSU is 239th in the country in defensive rebounding percentage. So here we go. Wade Taylor, preseason SEC Player of the Year. Has he played to that level?
I don't think he has, but I don't think he's been bad either. I mean, you look back at the near loss they had to, number 1 in many of the metrics, Houston, and he just absolutely went off in the second half. I don't think they need him to be the SEC Player of the Year to be able to achieve the goals that they want to achieve this year, because Henry Coleman, if you look at, and I'm going to mess it up, Bart Torvik's PRPGP exclamation point, which is basically like a basketball a version of WAR.
Sure.
If you're a baseball guy, he's the 13th best player in the country. He's had 6 double-doubles this season, and a lot of that's been because they're feeding him through offensive rebounds, and he's been really good at scooping them up and putting them back or getting to the free throw line. So I don't think he necessarily needs to be that much of a guy. And the biggest thing of all of this is that they should be getting back to 100% Tyrese Radford back for conference play now, after he's missed a good majority of the season due to an injury, and he really helps take some of that pressure off of Wade Taylor. He's another ball handler. He can run the point a little bit and get Wade Taylor open for some shots, and he draws the attention of the defense to get Wade Taylor a little bit more open. He's had to work through a lot of focus on him through the non-conference with Tyrese Radford out.
Yeah, Boots Radford went to high school less than 2 miles from where I'm sitting. I think a lot of people are very familiar with him. I was going to ask, what's his status? I know he's returned to playing, but is he a full go?
Yeah, we talked to him today. He said he's feeling back towards full go. Now, to his credit or whatever, we asked him that when he kind of came back a little bit during the Paul game. He said he felt like he was 100%, but then needed to sit out a couple more games to feel full go. But he went a decent amount of minutes, more minutes against Prairie View than he did against DePaul, and looked pretty decent. So I think he seems to be trending on the way up, and he is as vital of any piece in this A&M team as anybody. Though he's as Wade Taylor, Henry Coleman, Anderson Garcia, any of those guys. So I think he should be on the up and up.
Late tip, 7:30 in Reed Arena tomorrow. A&M's been good for a couple of years now. What kind of environment do you expect tomorrow night?
I think it'll be a pretty good one. I think, there's a lot of A&M fans who kind of bought into this little regional rivalry with LSU. It's going to be the students aren't back on campus yet, so that's going to affect it a little bit. But, Houston's a big LSU hub, so I know a lot of the Tiger fans usually try to make the trip up and get a little rowd. So it should be a pretty good environment.
If the crowd's in the PMAC or any indication, I wouldn't expect a ton of purple and gold tomorrow for LSU and Texas A&M. It's been a bit of a struggle getting folks in the seats, so we'll see. But Travis, we appreciate some time. Enjoy the basketball. We'll do it again soon.
You got it. Anytime.
Travis Brown, A&M reporter for the Bryan College Station Eagle. We always talk A&M with Travis. Does an awesome job. I mean, some of the statistics that I'll rattle off for you here. As we mentioned, A&M's number one in the country in offensive rebounding percentage, and LSU's been very poor at that, 239th in the country in defensive rebounding percentage. A&M gets 19 offensive rebounds per game. That's a lot. Wade Taylor has been very good with them at the point. He's one of 10 Division I players in the country that average 15 points and have 50 assists and 25 steals. He leads the SEC in assists and steals while averaging more than 15 points per game. Henry Coleman's been fantastic. He's one of 3 SEC players with 150 points and 100 rebounds this year. And then Boots Radford, kind of their heartbeat. He's an energy guy, really a buzz guy. Comes here from Baton Rouge and McKinley and now playing at Texas A&M, and he's getting healthy. So they're good. As I mentioned, their losses are to really good teams: Florida Atlantic, Virginia, Memphis, who's playing great, Houston, who's been very, very good. So it's a good A&M team. It's a tall task for LSU to go over there to open conference play, but we'll see what they got tomorrow at 7:30. You want to listen to that, you can catch it 7 o'clock pregame on Eagle 98.1. John Brady and Chris Blair will be on the call. We'll come back, close it out on a Friday edition presented by Corks.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com. We tell you about the new bathtub that they can put in, a brand new closet customized for you. We tell you about the full-scale bathroom renovations they can do. They can also do things that are safety measures. If you've got a loved one who's aging, wants to stay in the home, maybe you can put some handrails around the shower or tub area. Maybe you can put a non-slip floor in so that there's not a hazard of slipping there in the bathroom. Those are things that David Duvall and his team do all the time at One Bath and Closet. So if that's something you're interested in, go to the website, onebathandclosets.com, click that free consultation, and see whether or not David Duvall and his team can help you out with that. If you want to do one of those full-scale bathroom renovations or remodels, they got you covered there as well. At onebathandclosets.com, you can see pictures of their great work. You can see the testimonials from their satisfied clients. I can tell you this, they're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. They're not going to show up, get the job done. You're going to have to come back a month and a half later because something's defective. They will do the job right the first time and leave the competition behind. Check out the website. Get that free consultation at onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Hey, look what I found! The motivation I needed to live healthier. My new favorite sport.
I found my groove.
I found I'm part fish.
My second win when I needed it most.
I found more than a gym.
The affordable childcare this mom needed.
Time for myself.
We found our why.
Have you found yours?
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving.
Join me and Jimmy out for the Monday edition of Live at Lunch from the Beau Rivage in Biloxi. We're recapping a huge weekend in college basketball, plus the final weekend of the NFL regular season. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Monday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Shout out to the folks over at Corks. Medinka Brothers, known them a long, long time. Brought you Kuyans across the river over there in Port Allen. Started up Corks just over a year ago. And, man, it is so, so good. I tell you about the jumbo fried shrimp and that delicious fried catfish, but they've got other things. They can put those on a po' boy. Great, great po' boys over at Corks. They've also got beignet bites for dessert, which are fantastic. And then, something that I don't talk about often, but probably should, they've got delicious stuffed baked potatoes. You can get a baked potato covered with crawfish etouffee and jumbo fried shrimp on there. So, so good. It is not your standard drive-through quick service restaurant. It is high quality stuff over there at Corks. Check out the menu at corksfishandshrimp.com. If you've got an event coming up, you want to feed your office, family reunion coming up, birthday party, game watch party, Super Bowl's coming up, and you just need to feed people in bulk, Corks is more than capable of doing your catering for you. Got big platters of that shrimp, catfish, French fries, hush puppies, all of it. Check it out at corksfishandshrimp.com. All right, one more order of business, Mario. Let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one, the new Intimidator at Alex Box Stadium. They added a new year to it, obviously, with the championship. Take it or leave it.
I mean, you got to take it. It's been a while. It's been since 2009. It's been 14 years since we could put a fresh coat of paint on that thing. If you missed it, go to LSU Baseball's Twitter handle. They showed the unveiling. Similar design, in fact, just about exactly the same as it was, but they've added the new year. So now you've got 7 titles on there. And incidentally, there was a preseason poll that came out today that had LSU ranked number 3. Wake Forest getting a lot of love in that number 1 spot. Nick Kurtz is back for them, who's a stud offensively, and they bring in Chase Burns from Tennessee to add to that pitching staff, which, did lose Louder and Manasseh and some of those, but Michael Massey is back, so they got a really good team there at Wake Forest, but LSU going to be a force to be reckoned with as well, so it'd be fine with me if this time next year we were throwing another coat of paint on that thing, because that's fun to do. Baseball season coming up here in 6 weeks. I will certainly take the new Intimidator.
Hell yeah, well said. Next one, the Pelicans will continue their winning ways tonight against the Clippers in the Smoothie King Center. Take it or leave it.
Well, I picked against them up in Minnesota, and they proved me wrong. I might as well take them this time around. Pels playing really, really well. Mario, you said that potentially might be a better environment in the Smoothie King Center than the Dome coming up.
Yes, I think there will. It might be a more expensive ticket, too. Like, no joke, which is crazy to think. The last game of the regular season against the Falcons with playoff stakes.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at.
Any concerns about the Clippers? Biggest concern with the Clippers?
Biggest concern with the Clippers would probably be Paul George. He's finally back healthy. I think people kind of assume he's just always injured, but he's not right now. And he's balling, as is Kawhi. And James Harden as the third option has actually been really good. He's shooting like 44% from three right now, which is a career high. So they just have a lot of firepower. But the Pelicans are at home. Red Panda's in the building. They've won 9 out of the last 10 against the Clippers. I'll go ahead and endorse your pick for the Pels.
Look, Harden, I think if you run your entire team through him, that day's gone. If you have him as an option to cook for 5 minutes, that's probably still pretty salty. But the Pels have been really, really good. I will take them to win tonight in the blender.
All right, last one. Speaking of, Red Panda is better than Quick Change as a halftime show. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Quick Change blew my mind the first time I saw him. But that's very clearly some sort of mechanism that I don't know about, like some vacuum system or something's going on. It's really impressive, and they do it fantastically. And the one where they dump the glitter on the end and they got all the new stuff on, like that blew my mind when I was in college for the first time and saw it. But there's something going on there that beats the eye. Red Panda's just got skills. Now, I don't know how you determine you're able to ride a unicycle and flip bowls onto your head. I don't know where you discover that talent. If you're a good golfer or marksman with a gun, I got a pretty good idea how you figured that out. If you're really good at video games, I think I figured out how you know you're good at that. Who figured out flipping cups on their head on a unicycle? I don't know how she determined she was good at that, but she is very good at that. And she was here watching the women destroy Missouri last night, and she'll be in the blender to watch the Pelicans and Clippers. So if you're listening to us here in Baton Rouge or New Orleans and you're going to the game tonight, Red Panda tonight, so check it out. You're a big Red Panda guy, aren't you?
Yes, I love me some Red Panda. She's been doing the Hornets/Pelicans games since they came to the city in 2002, and I remember her dropping the plate exactly one time.
Which, as we talked about, makes it all the more impressive. It's more impressive to have seen her drop a plate, so you know that she's actually doing it, as opposed to there's some sort of magnetic thing that we don't know about that makes her 100% all the time.
Yes, and the song is really catchy. It puts me in a good mood for some reason.
I think you played it earlier coming out of
I did. I played it on Haney's show, too.
Mario getting those Friday vibes, and we like that. It's a big, big weekend here in sports. Of course, the Saints and Falcons coming up on Sunday. That could be for a playoff spot. We'll see. I picked the Saints a little bit earlier. I'm concerned about the Falcons' run game. That has been terrible against the Saints. Well, it's been really good, terrible for the Saints over the last couple of years. They've got to find a way to figure that out, but I'm going to trust them at home with the offense that's playing a little bit better to figure some things out. I picked that. And I'm not going to pick LSU to go to Texas A&M and win. I think the Aggies get that one. No line is out on that yet, but I would imagine it'll be pushing double figures, as it probably should be. LSU just has not been able to play with Texas. Kansas State has not been able to play with Syracuse. They did beat Wake, who's played great. Wake's been awesome. Now, they got Efton Reed, who you'll remember from LSU, who went to Gonzaga, and now he's at Wake. He got eligible with Jalen Cook in that whole second transfer eligibility wave, and so Wake's been pretty good, and LSU did beat them. Dayton's got a pretty good team, and LSU played them really well for 35 minutes and then gave it away. But I just, in that environment, veteran team, good coach, I don't like LSU on Saturday night. Hopefully they can get it done, but Tuesday becomes a pretty big one from LSU if you get my drift, because they really need to beat Vanderbilt. Looking forward to Monday's show. That's going to be brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, and we'll get you ready for the national championship game. We'll have Denton Day on, and we'll talk about Michigan and Wisconsin and Washington, a stress-free bowl game for those of us here in the SEC, because no SEC team can win it. They're not playing, which is nice. Doesn't happen all that often. We'll also react to Saints and Falcons. We'll react to LSU and Texas A&M, as well as the weekend in SEC basketball and transfer portal and coaching stuff that could happen over the next 72 hours. You missed any of our show today, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. Wherever you find your sound, you can find us. We had Preston Guy, Talking Tigers, Billy Embody on the transfer portal and recruiting, as well as Travis Brown from the Bryan College Station Eagle. Shout out to Corks for bringing you our Friday shows. Matt's about to drive you home from 3 to 6 on AFR. We're back Monday, same time, same place. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys,
clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings